This is part 2C, Operating Techniques Continued. More than half of all traffic accidents happen at night. Drivers can't see the hazards as soon as in daylight, so they have less time to respond. Drivers caught by surprise are less able to avoid a crash. The problems of night driving involve the driver, the roadway, and the vehicle. We will discuss each of these factors. People can't see as sharply at night or in dim light. Also, the eyes need time to adjust seeing in dim light. Most people have noticed this when walking into a dark movie theater. Drivers can be blinded for a short time by bright light. It takes time to recover from this blindness. Older drivers are especially bothered by glare. Most people have been temporarily blinded by camera flash units or by the high beams of an oncoming vehicle. It can take several seconds to recover from glare. Even 2 seconds of glare blindness can be dangerous. A vehicle going 55 miles per hour will travel more than half the distance of a football field during that time. Don't look directly at bright lights when driving. Look at the right side of the road. Watch the sidelines when somebody coming toward you has very bright lights. Fatigue, being tired, and lack of alertness are bigger problems at night. The body's need for sleep is beyond a person's control. Most people are less alert at night, especially after midnight. This is particularly true if you've been driving for a long time. Drivers may not see hazards as soon or react as quickly, so the chance of a crash is greater. If you are sleepy, the only safe cure is to get off the road and get some sleep. If you don't, you risk your life and the lives of others. Poor lighting. In the daytime, there is usually enough light to see well. This is not true at night. Some areas may have bright street lights, but many areas will have poor lighting. On most roads, you will probably have to depend entirely on your headlights. Less light means you will not be able to see hazards as well as in the daytime. Road users who do not have lights are hard to see. There are many accidents at night involving pedestrians, joggers, bicyclists, and animals. Even when there are lights, the road scene can be confusing. Traffic signals and hazards can be hard to see against a background of signs, shop windows, and other lights. Drive slower when lighting is poor or confusing. Drive slowly enough to be sure you can stop in the distance you can see ahead. Drunk drivers. Drunk drivers are a hazard to themselves and to you. Be especially alert around the closing times for bars and taverns. Watch for drivers who have trouble staying in their lane or maintaining speed. Stop without reason or show other signs of being drunk. Headlights. At night, your headlights will usually be the main source of light for you to see and for others to see you. You can't see nearly as much with your headlights as you can see in the daytime. With low beams, you can see about 250 feet, and with high beams, about 350 to 500 feet. You must adjust your speed to keep your stopping distance within your sight distance. This means going slow enough to be able to stop within the range of your headlights. Otherwise, by the time you see a hazard, you will not have time to stop. Night driving can be more dangerous if you have problems with your headlights. Dirty headlights may give you only half the light they should. This cuts down your ability to see and makes it harder for others to see you. Make sure your lights are clean and working. Headlights can be out of adjustment. If they don't point in the right direction, they don't give you a good view and they can blind other drivers. Have a qualified person make sure they are adjusted properly. In order for you to be seen easily, the following must be clean and working properly: reflectors, marker lights, clearance lights, tail lights, identification lights. At night, your turn signals and brake lights are even more important for telling other drivers what you intend to do. Make sure you have clean, working turn signals and stoplights. It is more important at night than in the daytime to have clean windshields and mirrors. Bright lights at night can cause dirt on your windshield or mirrors to create a glare of its own, blocking your view. Most people have experienced driving toward the sun just as it has risen or is about to set, and found that they can barely see through a windshield that seemed to look okay in the middle of the day. Clean your windshield inside and outside for safe driving at night. Make sure you are rested and alert. If you are drowsy, sleep before you drive. Even a nap can save your life or the life of others. If you wear eyeglasses, make sure they are clean and unscratched. Do not wear sunglasses at night. Do a complete pre-trip inspection of your vehicle. Pay attention to checking all the lights and the reflectors and cleaning those you can reach. Avoid glare from oncoming vehicles. Do not look directly at lights of oncoming vehicles. Look slightly to the right at a right lane or edge marking if available. If other drivers don't put their low beams on, don't try to get back at them by putting your high beams on. This increases the glare for oncoming drivers and increases the chance of a crash. Use your high beams when you can. Some drivers make the mistake of always using low beams. This seriously cuts down on their ability to see ahead. Use high beams when it is safe and legal to do so. Use them when you are not within 500 feet of an approaching vehicle. Don't let the inside of your cab get too bright. This makes it harder to see outside. Keep the interior lights off and adjust your instrument lights as low as you can and still read the gauges. If you get sleepy, stop driving. If you can safely do so, look at yourself in the mirror. If you look sleepy or you just feel sleepy, stop driving. Make sure your vehicle is ready before driving in winter weather. Make sure the cooling system is full and there is enough antifreeze in the system to protect against freezing. This can be checked with a special coolant tester. Make sure the defrosters and heater work. For other heaters, mirror heaters, battery box heaters, fuel tank heaters, check their operation. Make sure the windshield wiper blades are in good working condition. Check the windshield washer works and there is fluid in the reservoir. Use windshield washer antifreeze to prevent freezing of the washer liquid. If your wipers fail, stop safely and fix the problem. Have enough tread on your tires. The drive tires must provide traction to push the rig over wet pavement and through snow. The steering tires must have traction to steer the vehicle. You may find yourself in conditions where you can't drive without chains, even to get to a place of safety. Carry the right number of chains and extra crosslinks. Make sure they will fit your drive tires. Check the chains for broken hooks, worn or broken crosslinks, indented or broken side chains. Learn how to put the chains on before you need to do so in snow and ice. The lights and reflectors must be clean. Check from time to time. Remove any ice, snow, dirt from the windshield, windows, and mirrors before starting. Use a windshield scraper, snow brush, and windshield defroster as necessary. Check handholds, steps, and deck plates. This will reduce the danger of slipping. Radiator shutters must be free of ice or other debris to prevent overheating. Exhaust system leaks are especially dangerous when cab ventilation may be poor. Loose connections could permit poisonous carbon monoxide to leak into your vehicle. Carbon monoxide gas will cause you to be sleepy. In large enough amounts, it can kill you. Check the exhaust system for loose parts and for sounds and signs of leaks. Drive slowly and smoothly on slippery roads. If it is very slippery, you shouldn't drive at all. Stop at the first safe place. Here are some safety guidelines. Start gently and slowly. When first starting out, get the feel of the road. Don't hurry. Make turns as gentle as possible. Don't brake any harder than necessary, and don't use the engine brake or speed retarder. They can cause the driving wheels to skid on slippery surfaces. Don't pass slower vehicles unless necessary. Go slow and watch far enough ahead to keep a steady speed. Avoid having to slow down and then speed up. Take curves at slower speeds and don't brake while in the curve. Be aware that as the temperature rises to the point where ice begins to melt, the road becomes even more slippery. Slow down even more. Don't drive alongside other vehicles. Keep a longer following distance. When you see a traffic jam ahead, slow down or stop to wait for it to clear. Try hard to anticipate stops early and slow down gradually. When driving in heavy rain or deep standing water, your brakes will get wet. Water in the brakes can cause the brakes to be weak, to apply unevenly, or to grab. This can cause lack of braking power, wheel lockups, pulling to one side or the other, and jackknifing if you pull a trailer. Avoid driving through deep puddles or flowing water if possible. If not, you should slow down, place transmission in a low gear, gently put on the brakes. This presses the linings against the brake drums or disc and keeps mud, silt, sand, and water from getting in. Increase the engine RPM and cross the water while keeping light pressure on the brakes. When out of the water, maintain light pressure on the brakes for a short distance to heat them up and dry them out. Make a test stop when safe to do so. Check behind to make sure no one is following, then apply the brakes to be sure they work right. If not, dry out further as described. One big caution: do not apply too much brake pressure and accelerator at the same time, or you could overheat the brake drums and linings. Driving in very hot weather requires you to do a few extra checks. Do a normal pre-trip inspection, but pay special attention to the following items. Tires. Check the tire mounting and the tire air pressure. Inspect the tires every 2 hours or every 100 miles when driving in very hot weather. Air pressure increases with temperature. Do not let the air out or the pressure will be too low when the tires cool off. If the tire is too hot to touch, remain stopped until the tire cools off. Otherwise, the tire may blow out or catch fire. Pay special attention to recapped or retreaded tires. Under high temperature, the tread may separate from the body of the tire. Engine oil. The engine oil helps keep the engine cool as well as lubricating. Make sure there is enough engine oil. If you have an oil temperature gauge, make sure the temperature is within the proper range while you are driving. Engine coolant. Before starting out, make sure the engine cooling system has enough water and antifreeze according to the engine manufacturer's direction. Antifreeze helps the engine under hot conditions as well as cold conditions. When driving, check the water temperature or coolant temperature gauge from time to time. Make sure that it remains in the normal range. If the gauge goes above the highest safe temperature, there may be something wrong that could lead to engine failure and possibly fire. Stop driving as soon as safely possible and try to find out what is wrong. Some vehicles have sight glasses or see-through coolant overflow containers or coolant recovery containers. These permit you to check the coolant level while the engine is hot. If the container is not part of the pressurized system, the cap can be safely removed and coolant added even when the engine is at operating temperature. Never remove the radiator cap or any part of the pressurized system until the system is cool. Steam and boiling water can spray under pressure and cause severe burns. If you can touch the radiator cap with your bare hand, it is probably cool enough to open. If coolant has to be added to a system without a recovery tank or overflow tank, follow these steps. Shut engine off. Wait until engine has cooled. Protect your hands using gloves or a thick cloth. Turn the radiator cap slowly to the first stop, which releases the pressure seal. Step back while pressure is released from the cooling system. When all pressure has been released, press down on the cap and turn it further to remove it. Visually check the level of coolant and add more coolant if necessary. Replace the cap and turn all the way to the closed position. Learn how to check V-belt tightness on your vehicle by pressing on the belts. Loose belts will not turn the water pump and/or the fan properly. This will result in overheating. Also, check the belts for cracking or other signs of wear. Make sure the coolant hoses are in good condition. A broken hose while driving can lead to engine failure and even fire. Watch for bleeding tar. Tar in the road pavement frequently rises to the surface in very hot weather. Go slow enough to prevent overheating. High speeds create more heat for tires and the engine. In desert conditions, the heat may build up to the point where it is dangerous. The heat will increase the chances of tire failure or even fire and engine failure.
You should use low beams whenever you can. True or false? What should you do before you drive if you are drowsy? What effect can wet brakes cause? How can you avoid these problems? You should let air out of hot tires so the pressure goes back to normal. True or false? You can safely remove the radiator cap as long as the engine isn't overheated. True or false? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
In mountain driving, the force of gravity plays a major role. If you have a heavy load, you will have to use lower gears and go slower to climb hills. In coming down steep hills, gravity will tend to speed you up. You must go slow enough that your brakes can hold you back without getting too hot. If your brakes become too hot, they may start to fade. This means that you have to apply them harder and harder to get the same stopping power. If the brakes continue to be used hard, they can continue to fade until you can't slow down or stop at all. These dangers can be avoided by going slow downhill. No matter what the size of your vehicle, going down long, steep grades can cause your brakes to fail if you go too fast. Using lower gears will help you keep from going too fast. Lower gears allow engine compression and friction to help slow the vehicle. This is true whether you have an automatic transmission or a manual transmission. If you do have a large vehicle with a manual transmission, don't wait until you've started down the hill to shift down. You might get hung up in neutral and would lose the benefit of engine braking. You'd find yourself coasting, which would be illegal and dangerous. Be in the right gear before starting down the hill. With older trucks, a rule for choosing gears was to use the same gear going down a hill that you would need to climb the hill. However, new trucks have low friction parts and streamlined shapes for fuel economy. They may also have more powerful engines. This means they can go up hills in higher gears and have less friction and air drag to hold them back going down hills. For that reason, drivers of modern trucks may have to use lower gears going down a hill than would be required to go up the hill. Find out what is right for your vehicle. When going downhill, brakes will always heat up. They are designed so brake shoes or pads rub against the drum or disc to slow the vehicle, which creates heat. Brakes are designed to take a lot of heat. However, brakes can be made to fail from excessive heat by attempting to slow down from too high a speed too many times or too quickly. Brakes will fade, that is, have less stopping power when they get very hot, and they can get to the point where they will no longer slow the vehicle. The right way to use your brakes for long downhill grades is to go slow enough that a fairly light use of the brakes will keep your speed from increasing. If you go slow enough, the brakes will be able to get rid of the heat and they won't get too hot. Some people believe that letting up on the brakes from time to time will allow them to cool enough so they don't become overheated. Tests have proven that this is not true. Brake drums cool very slowly, so the amount of cooling between applications is not enough to prevent overheating. This type of braking requires heavier brake pressure than steady application does. Heavy pressure on the brakes from time to time builds up more heat than light continuous pressure does. Therefore, select the right gear, go slow enough, and maintain a lighter, steadier use of the brakes. Escape ramps have been built on many steep mountain grades. Escape ramps are meant to stop runaway vehicles safely without injuring drivers and passengers. Escape ramps use a long bed of loose, soft material such as pea gravel to slow a runaway vehicle, sometimes in combination with an upgrade. Know the escape ramp locations on your route. Signs show drivers where ramps are located. Escape ramps save lives, equipment, and cargo. Use them if you lose your brakes. A hazard is any road condition or other road user, driver, bicyclist, pedestrian that is a possible danger. Seeing hazards lets you be prepared. You'll have more time to act if you see hazards before they become emergencies. There are often clues that will help you see hazards. The more you drive, the better you can get at seeing hazards. we will talk about hazards that you should be aware of. When people are working on the road, it is a hazard. There may be narrower lanes, sharp turns, or uneven surfaces. Other drivers are often distracted and drive unsafely. Workers and construction vehicles may get in the way. Drive slowly and carefully near work zones. Use your four-way flashers or brake lights to warn drivers behind you. Sometimes the pavement drops off sharply near the edge of the road. Driving too near the edge can tilt your vehicle toward the side of the road. This can cause the top of your vehicle to hit roadside objects like signs, tree limbs. Also, it can be hard to steer as you cross the drop-off going off the road or coming back on. Things that have fallen on the road can be hazards. Freeway and turnpike exits can be particularly dangerous for commercial vehicles. Off-ramps and on-ramps often have speed limit signs posted. Remember, these speeds may be safe for automobiles, but may not be safe for larger vehicles or heavily loaded vehicles. People who can't see others are a very dangerous hazard. Be alert for drivers whose vision is blocked. Vans, loaded station wagons, and cars with the rear window blocked are examples. Vehicles may be partly hidden by blind intersections or alleys. If you can only see the rear or front end of a vehicle but not the driver, then he or she can't see you. Delivery trucks can present a hazard. The driver's vision is often blocked by packages or vehicle doors. Drivers of step vans, postal vehicles, and local delivery vehicles often are in a hurry and may suddenly step out of their vehicle or drive their vehicle into the traffic lane. Parked vehicles can be a hazard. When the people start to get out or when they suddenly start up and drive into your way. Be careful of a stopped bus. Passengers may cross in front of or behind the bus and they often can't see you. Pedestrians and bicyclists can also be hazards. Walkers, joggers, and bicyclists may be on the road with their back to the traffic, so they can't see you. People who are distracted are hazards. Watch for where they are looking. If they are looking elsewhere, they can't see you. But be alert, even when they are looking at you. They may believe that they have the right of way. Children tend to act quickly without checking traffic. Drivers or pedestrians talking to one another may not be paying close attention to the traffic. Accidents are particularly hazardous. People involved in the accident may not look for traffic. Passing drivers tend to look at the accident. People often run across the road without looking. Vehicles may slow or stop suddenly. People in and around shopping areas are often not watching traffic because they are looking for stores or looking into shop windows. Confused drivers often change direction suddenly or stop without warning. Confusion is common near freeway or turnpike interchanges and major intersections. Tourists unfamiliar with the area can be very hazardous. Clues to tourists include car-top luggage and out-of-state license plates. Motorists who fail to maintain normal speed are hazards. Seeing slow-moving vehicles early can prevent a crash. Drivers signaling a turn may be a hazard. They may slow more than expected or stop. If they are making a tight turn into an alley or driveway, they may go very slow. If they are blocked by pedestrians or other vehicles, they may have to stop on a roadway. Vehicles turning left may have to stop for oncoming vehicles. Drivers may feel your commercial vehicle is preventing them from getting where they want to go on time. Such drivers may want to pass you without a safe gap in the oncoming traffic, cutting too close in front of you. Drivers who are sleepy, have had too much to drink or drugs, or who are ill are hazards. Some clues to these drivers are weaving across the road or drifting from one side to another, leaving the road, dropping right wheel onto the shoulder or bumping across a curb in a turn, stopping at the wrong time, stopping at a green light, or waiting for too long at a stop, open window in cold weather, speeding up or slowing down suddenly, driving too fast or too slow. Be alert for drunk drivers and sleepy drivers late at night. Drivers look in the direction they are going to turn. You may sometimes get a clue from a driver's head and body movements that a driver may be going to make a turn, even though the turn signals aren't on. You are in conflict when you have to change speed and or direction to avoid hitting someone. Conflicts occur at intersections where vehicles meet, at merges such as turnpike on-ramps, and where there are needed lane changes, such as the end of a lane forcing a move to another line of traffic. Other situations include slow-moving or stalled traffic in a traffic lane and accident scenes. Watch for other drivers who are in conflict because they are a hazard to you. When they react to this conflict, they may do something that will put them in conflict with you. You look for the hazards in order to have time to plan a way out of any emergency. When you see a hazard, think about what you would do. Always be prepared to take action based on your plans.
Why should you be in the right gear before starting down a hill? Why do new trucks use lower gears going down a hill than coming up? The key to preventing brake fade is to go slow enough. True or false? What is a hazard? Why make emergency plans when you see a hazard? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
Good safety practices can help prevent emergencies. But if an emergency does happen, your chances of avoiding a crash depend upon how well you take action. Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. When you don't have enough room to stop, you may have to steer away from what's ahead. You can almost always turn to miss an obstacle more quickly than you can stop. In order to turn quickly, you must have a firm grip on the steering wheel with both hands. The best way to have both hands on the wheel if there is an emergency is to keep them there all the time. A quick turn can be made safely if it's done the right way. Here are some points that safe drivers use. Do not apply the brake while you are turning. It's very easy to lock your wheels while turning. If that happens, you may skid out of control. Do not turn any more than needed to clear whatever is in your way. The more sharply you turn, the greater the chances of a skid or a rollover. Be prepared to countersteer. That is, to turn the wheel back in the other direction once you've passed whatever was in your path. Unless you are prepared to countersteer, you won't be able to do it quickly enough. You should think of emergency steering and countersteering as two parts of one driving action. If an oncoming driver has drifted into your lane, a move to your right is best. If that driver realized what had happened, the natural response will be to return to his or her own lane. If something is blocking your path, the best direction to steer will depend upon the situation. If you've been using your mirrors, you'll know which lane is empty and can be safely used. If the shoulder is clear, going right may be best. No one is likely to be driving on the shoulder, but someone may be passing you on the left. You will know if you have been using your mirrors. If you are blocked on both sides, a move to the right may be best. At least you won't force anyone into an opposing traffic lane in a possible head-on collision. In some emergencies, you may have to drive off the road. It may be less risky than facing a collision with another vehicle. Most shoulders are strong enough to support the weight of a large vehicle and therefore offer an available escape route. Here are some guidelines if you do leave the road. Avoid braking. If possible, avoid using the brakes until your speed is dropped to about 20 miles per hour. Then brake very gently to avoid skidding on a loose surface. Keep one set of wheels on the pavement if possible. This helps to maintain control. Stay on the shoulder. If the shoulder is clear, stay on it until your vehicle has come to a stop. Signal and check your mirrors before pulling back onto the road. Returning to the road. If you are forced to return to the road before you can stop, use the following procedure. Hold the wheel tightly and turn sharply enough to get right back on the road safely. Don't try to edge gradually back on the road. If you do, your tires might grab unexpectedly and you could lose control. When both front tires are on the paved surface, countersteer immediately. These two turns should be thought of as a single steer, countersteer move. If someone suddenly pulls out in front of you, your natural response is to hit the brakes. This is a good response if there's enough distance to use the brakes correctly. You should brake in a way that will keep your vehicle in a straight line and allow you to turn if it becomes necessary. You can use the control braking method or the stab braking method. Control braking. With this method, you apply the brakes as hard as you can without locking the wheels. Keep steering wheel movements very small while doing this. If you need to make a larger steering adjustment or if the wheels lock, release the brakes. Reapply the brakes as soon as you can. Stab braking. Apply your brakes all the way. Release brakes when wheels lock up. As soon as the wheels start rolling, apply the brakes fully again. It can take up to 1 second for the wheels to start rolling after you release the brakes. If you reapply the brakes before the wheels start rolling, the vehicle won't straighten out. Don't jam on the brakes. Emergency braking does not mean pushing down on the brake pedal as hard as you can. This will only keep the wheels locked up and cause a skid. If the wheels are skidding, you cannot control the vehicle. Brakes kept in good condition rarely fail. Most hydraulic brake failures occur for one of two reasons. Air brakes were discussed in Part 5 of this video series. Hydraulic brake failures result from the loss of hydraulic pressure, brake fade on long hills. When the system won't build up pressure, the brake pedal will feel spongy or go to the floor. Here are some things you can do. Downshift. Putting the vehicle into a lower gear will help to slow the vehicle. Pump the brakes. Sometimes pumping the brake pedal will generate enough hydraulic pressure to stop the vehicle. Use the parking brake. The parking or emergency brake is separate from the hydraulic brake system. Therefore, it can be used to slow the vehicle. However, be sure to press the release button or pull the release lever at the same time you use the emergency brake so you can adjust the brake pressure and keep the wheels from locking up. There are 4 important things that safe drivers do to handle a tire failure safely. Be aware that a tire has failed. Hold the steering wheel firmly. Stay off the brake. After stopping, check all the tires.
Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. True or false? What are some advantages of going right instead of left around an obstacle? What is an escape ramp? If a tire blows out, you should put the brakes on hard to stop quickly. True or false? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
The Commercial Driver License Video Series is an internal production of the Training Division, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and Commonwealth Media Services, Pennsylvania Department of General Services. The producers wish to acknowledge the valuable assistance given to this series by Consolidated Freightways, York, Pennsylvania, Capital Products, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Rohr Bus Lines, Duncannon, Pennsylvania, and the Eastern Pennsylvania Training Facility, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. This part deals with general vehicle safety. If you are in an accident and not seriously hurt, you need to act to prevent further damage or injury. The basic steps to be taken in any accident are to protect the area, notify authorities, care for the injured, collect information. The first thing to do at an accident scene is to keep another accident from happening at the same spot. To protect the accident area, if your vehicle is involved in the accident, try to get it to the side of the road. This will help prevent another accident and allow traffic to move. If you're stopping to help, park away from the accident. The area immediately around the accident will be needed for emergency vehicles. Put on your flashers. Set out reflective triangles to warn other traffic. Make sure they can be seen by other drivers in time for them to avoid the accident. If you have a CB, put out a call over the emergency channel before you get out of your vehicle. If not, wait until after the accident scene has been properly protected, then phone or send someone to phone the police. Try to determine where you are so you can give the exact location. If a qualified person is at the accident and helping the injured, stay out of the way unless asked to assist. Otherwise, do the best you can to help any injured parties. Here are some simple steps to follow in giving assistance. Don't move a severely injured person unless the danger of fire or passing traffic makes it necessary. Stop heavy bleeding by applying direct pressure to the wound and keep the injured person warm. If you were involved in the accident, you or your employer will have to file an accident report. Collect the following information for the report: names, addresses, and driver license numbers of other drivers involved in the accident. License numbers and types of vehicles involved in the accident. Names and addresses of owners of the other vehicles if different from the drivers. A description of the damage to other vehicles or to property. The name and address of anyone who was injured. The name, badge number, and agency of any police officer investigating the accident. Names and addresses of witnesses. The precise location of the accident and the direction the vehicles were moving on the roads or streets involved. Truck fires can cause damage and injury. Learn the causes of fires and how to prevent them. Know what to do to extinguish fires. The following are some causes of vehicle fires. After the accident, spilled fuel, improper use of flares. Underinflated tires and duals that touch. Short circuits in the electrical system due to damaged insulation, loose connections, etc. Driver smoking, improper fueling techniques, loose fuel connections. Flammable cargo, improperly sealed or loaded cargo, or a cargo load with poor ventilation. To promote fire prevention, pay attention to the following. Pre-trip inspection. Make a complete inspection of the electrical, fuel, and exhaust systems, tires, and cargo. En route inspection. Check the tires, wheels, and truck body for signs of heat whenever you stop during a trip. Follow correct safety procedures for fueling the vehicle, using brakes, handling flares, and other activities that can cause a fire. Check the instruments and gauges often for signs of overheating, and use the mirrors to look for signs of smoke from tires or the vehicle. Use normal caution in handling anything flammable. Knowing how to fight fires is important. Fires have been made worse by drivers who didn't know what to do. Here are some procedures to follow in the event of fire. The first step is to get the vehicle off the road and to stop. In doing so, park in an open area away from buildings, trees, brush, or other vehicles or anything that might catch fire. Don't pull into a service station. Use your CB if you have one to notify the police of your problem and your location. Keep the fire from spreading. Before trying to put out the fire, make sure that it doesn't spread any further. With an engine fire, turn off the engine as soon as you can. Don't open the hood if you can avoid it. Shoot the extinguisher through louvers, radiator, or from the underside of the vehicle. For a cargo fire in a van or box trailer, keep the doors shut, especially if your cargo contains hazardous materials. Opening the van doors will supply the fire with oxygen and can cause it to burn very fast. Use the right fire extinguisher. The BC type fire extinguisher is designed to work on electrical fires and burning liquids. The ABC type is designed to work on burning wood, paper, and cloth as well. Water can be used on wood, paper, or cloth, but don't use water on an electrical fire since you could get shocked. Don't use water on a gasoline fire, as it will just cause the flames to spread. A burning tire must be cooled. Lots of water may be required. Here are some rules to follow in putting out a fire. Know how the fire extinguisher works. Study the instructions printed on the extinguisher before you need it. When using the extinguisher, stay as far away from the fire as possible. Aim at the source or base of the fire, not up into the flames. Position yourself upwind. Let the wind carry the extinguisher to the fire rather than carrying the flames to you. Continue until whatever was burning has been cooled. Absence of smoke or flame does not mean the fire is completely out or that it cannot restart. Only try to extinguish a fire if you know what you are doing and it is safe to do so.
What are some things to do at an accident scene to prevent another accident? Name 2 causes of tire fires. What kind of fires is a BC extinguisher not good for? When using your extinguisher, should you get as close as possible to the fire? Name some causes of vehicle fires. If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
Driving a vehicle for long hours is tiring. Even the best of drivers will become less alert. However, there are things that good drivers do to help stay alert and safe. Here are a few suggestions. Get enough sleep. Leaving on a long trip when you're already tired is dangerous. If you have a long trip scheduled, make sure that you get a good sleep before you go. Most people require 7 to 8 hours of sleep every 24 hours. Schedule trips safely. Your body gets used to sleeping during certain hours. If you are driving during these hours, you will be less alert. Try to schedule trips for the hours you are normally awake. Many heavy motor vehicle accidents occur between midnight and 6 a.m. Tired drivers can easily fall asleep at these times, especially if they do not regularly drive at these hours. Trying to push on and finish a long trip can be very dangerous. Avoid medication. Many medicines can make you sleepy. Avoid those that do have the label warning against operating vehicles or machinery. The most common medicine of this type is an ordinary cold pill. If you have to drive with a cold, you are better off suffering from the cold than from the effects of the medicine. Keep cool. A hot, poorly ventilated cab can make you sleepy. Keep the window or vent cracked or use the air conditioner if you have one. Take breaks. Short breaks can keep you alert, but the time to take them is before you feel very drowsy or tired. Stop often. Walk around and inspect your vehicle. It may help to do some physical exercises. When you are sleepy, trying to push on is far more dangerous than most drivers think. It is a major cause of fatal accidents. Here are some important rules to follow. Stop to sleep. When your body needs sleep, sleep is the only thing that will work. If you have to make a stop anyway, make it wherever you feel the first sign of sleepiness, even if it is earlier than you planned. By getting up a little earlier the next day, you can keep a schedule without the danger of driving while you are not alert. Take a nap. If you can't stop for the night, at least pull off the road and take a nap. A nap as short as half an hour will do more to overcome fatigue than a half-hour coffee stop. Avoid drugs. There are no drugs that can overcome being tired. While they may keep you awake for a while, they won't make you alert. And eventually, you'll be even more tired than if you hadn't taken them at all. Sleep is the only thing that can overcome fatigue. Alcohol and driving. Drinking alcohol and then driving is a very serious problem. People who drink alcohol are involved in traffic accidents resulting in over 20,000 deaths every year. You should know how alcohol works in the human body, how it affects driving, laws regarding drinking and driving, the legal, financial, and safety risks of drinking and driving. The truth about alcohol. There are many dangerous ideas about the use of alcohol. The driver who believes in these wrong ideas will be more likely to get in trouble. Here are some examples. Alcohol increases your ability to drive. The truth is that alcohol is a drug that will make you less alert and reduce your ability to drive safely. Some people can drink a lot and not be affected by it. Everyone who drinks is affected by alcohol. If you eat a lot first, you won't get drunk. Food will slow down the effects of alcohol, but will not prevent them. Coffee and a little fresh air will help a drinker sober up. Only time will help a drinker sober up. Other methods just don't work. Stick with beer. It's not as strong as wine or whiskey. A few beers are the same as a few shots of whiskey or a few glasses of wine. What is a drink? It is the alcohol in drinks that affects human performance. It doesn't make any difference whether the alcohol comes from a couple of beers or from 2 glasses of wine or 2 shots of hard liquor. All of the following contain the same amount of alcohol. A 12-ounce glass of 5% beer, a 5-ounce glass of 12% wine, a 1 1/2 ounce shot of 80 proof liquor. Alcohol goes directly from the stomach into the bloodstream. A drinker can control the amount of alcohol which he or she takes in by having fewer drinks or none. However, the drinker cannot control how fast the body gets rid of alcohol. The body gets rid of alcohol in the blood at a rate of roughly 1 drink per hour. If you have drinks faster than your body can get rid of them, you will have more alcohol in your body and will be more affected. The amount of alcohol in your body is commonly measured by the blood alcohol concentration, BAC. What determines blood alcohol concentration? BAC is determined by the amount of alcohol you drink. More alcohol means a higher BAC. How fast you drink. Drinking fast means a higher BAC. Your weight. A small person doesn't have to drink as much to reach the same BAC. Alcohol affects more and more of the brain as BAC builds up. The first part of the brain affected controls judgment and self-control. One of the bad things about this is it can keep drinkers from knowing they are getting drunk. And of course, good judgment and self-control are absolutely necessary for safe driving. As blood alcohol concentration continues to build up, muscle control, vision, and coordination are affected more and more. Eventually, a person will pass out. All drivers are affected by drinking alcohol. Alcohol affects judgment, vision, coordination, and reaction time. It causes serious driving errors, such as increased reaction time to hazards, driving too fast or too slow, driving in the wrong lane, running over the curb, weaving, straddling lanes, quick, jerky starts, not signaling, failure to use lights, running stop signs and red lights, and improper passing. These effects mean increased chances of a crash and chances of losing your driver's license. Besides alcohol, other legal and illegal drugs are being used more often. Laws prohibit possession or use of many drugs while on duty. However, possession and use of a drug given to a driver by a doctor is permitted. If the doctor informs the driver, it will not affect safe driving ability. Once in a while, you may become so ill that you cannot operate a motor vehicle safely. If this happens to you, you must not drive. However, in cases of an emergency, you may drive to the nearest place where you can safely stop. All drivers should know something about hazardous materials. You must be able to recognize hazardous cargo, and you must know whether or not you can haul it without having a hazardous materials endorsement to your commercial driver license. The Federal Hazardous Materials Table names materials that are hazardous. They pose a risk to health, safety, and property during transportation. You must follow the many rules about transporting them. The intent of the rules is to contain the product, communicate the risk, and ensure safe drivers and equipment. Many hazardous products can injure or kill on contact. To protect drivers and others from contact, the rules tell shippers how to package safely. Similar rules tell drivers how to load, transport, and unload bulk tanks. These are the containment rules. The shipper uses a shipping paper and package labels to warn dock workers and drivers of the risk. Shipping orders, bills of lading, and manifests are all examples of shipping papers. There are 22 different hazard classes. A materials hazard class reflects the risk associated with it. Here are the 22 hazard classes: blasting agent, combustible liquid, corrosive material, etiologic agents, explosive A, explosive B, explosive C, flammable liquid, flammable gas, flammable solid, irritating material, non-flammable gas, organic peroxide, ORM, which stands for other regulated material, ORM A, B, C, D, and E. Oxidizer, poison A, poison B, radioactive material. Shippers write the name of the hazard class of hazardous products in the item description on the shipping paper. Similar words should show on the 4-inch diamond-shaped labels on the containers of hazardous materials. If the diamond label won't fit on the container, shippers put the label on a tag. For example, compressed gas cylinders that will not hold the label will have tags or decals. After an accident or hazardous material leak, the driver may be unable to speak when help arrives. Firefighters and police must know the hazards involved in order to prevent more damage or injury. The driver's life and the lives of others may depend on quickly finding the shipping papers for hazardous cargo. For that reason, you must tab shipping papers related to hazardous materials or keep them on top of other shipping papers. You must also keep shipping papers in a pouch on the driver's door or in clear view within reach or on the driver's seat. Drivers must use placards to warn others of their hazardous cargo. Placards are signs placed on the outside of the vehicle to show the hazard class or classes of products on board. There are 19 different Department of Transportation placards. These will be shown in Part 7, dealing with hazardous materials. The person who does the loading must place the placards on the front, rear, and both sides of the vehicle. Not all vehicles carrying hazardous materials need to have placards. These rules are also found in Part 7 of this video series, as well as in Section 7 of the Commercial Driver Manual. Before loading a truck with more than one type of product, you must know it is safe to load them together. If you do not know, ask your employer.
Common medicines for colds can make you sleepy. True or false? What should you do if you do become sleepy while driving? Coffee and a little fresh air will help a drinker sober up. True or false? What is a hazardous materials placard? Why are placards used? If you cannot answer these questions or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
The Commercial Driver License Video Series is an internal production of the Training Division, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and Commonwealth Media Services, Pennsylvania Department of General Services. The producers wish to acknowledge the valuable assistance given to this series by Consolidated Freightways, York, Pennsylvania, Capital Products, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Rohr Bus Lines, Duncannon, Pennsylvania, and the Eastern Pennsylvania Training Facility, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. This is part 3 of the Commercial Operator Video Series. This part deals with transporting cargo safely. As a candidate for a commercial driver's license, you may be tested on the correct methods for securing cargo for over-the-road shipment. Part 7 of this video series contains the information on transporting hazardous materials. This part will deal with inspecting cargo, cargo-related terms, cargo weight and balance, securing cargo, and transporting liquids. Whether or not you load and secure the cargo yourself, you are responsible for inspecting the cargo, recognizing overloads and poorly balanced loads, and ensuring your cargo is securely tied down or covered. If you will recall, in part 2 of this series, knowledge required by all commercial drivers, the need to check cargo was mentioned as part of the 7-step inspection procedure. Now we want to go into more detail. There are federal, state, and local regulations dealing with transporting cargo. To be able to understand them, you should understand the terms used. Gross vehicle weight, GVW, the total weight of a single vehicle plus its load. Gross combination weight, GCW, the total weight of a powered unit plus trailer or trailers plus the cargo. Gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, the maximum gross vehicle weight for a single vehicle plus its load. Gross combination weight rating, GCWR. Same as the gross vehicle weight rating, except that this is for combination vehicles. Axle weight, the weight transmitted to the ground by one axle or two axles. Tire load, the maximum safe weight a tire can carry at a specified pressure. This weight is right on the side of the tire. Suspension systems. All suspension systems have a manufacturer's weight capacity rating. Coupling device capacity. Coupling devices are rated for the maximum weight they can pull or carry. You should become familiar with these terms since it is your responsibility to keep your vehicle weight within legal limits. States have maximums for gross vehicle weights, gross combination weights, and axle weights. Usually you will see these maximum values on bridges. You may also see allowable weights posted for roads. You will find lower weights allowed where the axles are close together and higher weights where they are farther apart. Overloading can have bad effects on steering, braking, and speed control. Overloaded trucks go very slowly up the hill and may gain too much speed on the downhill side. Stopping distances increase. Brakes have to work harder. Sometimes they fail to work at all. Even when you do not have enough cargo weight to cause overloading, you can still have problems if your load is not properly balanced. A high center of gravity, cargo piled up high, or heavy cargo on top can cause you to tip over. Going around a curve or swerving to avoid a hazard, the load shifts. The truck leans and over you go. It's very important to distribute a cargo so that it is as low as possible. Put the heaviest parts of the cargo under the lightest parts. This improves the balance of the cargo weight. Poor weight balance can make vehicle hauling unsafe. Too much weight on the steering axle, hard steering and possible damage to the steering axle and tires. Too little weight on the driving axles can cause poor traction. The drive wheels may spin easily, and in bad weather you may not be able to keep going. Underloaded front axles caused by shifting the weight too far to the rear can make the steering axle weight too light to steer safely. And to repeat, weight loaded so there is a high center of gravity causes greater chance of rollover. On flatbed vehicles, there is always the chance the load will shift to the side or fall off.
For what 3 things related to cargo are drivers responsible? How often must you stop while on the road to check your cargo? How is gross combination weight rating different from gross combination weight? Name 2 situations where legal maximum weights may not be safe. What can happen if you don't have enough weight on the front axle? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
There are a variety of ways to properly and safely secure cargo. Blocking is shaped pieces, shaped to fit snugly against the cargo. Blocking is used in the front, back, and/or sides of a piece of cargo to keep it from sliding. It is also secured to the cargo deck to prevent cargo movement. Bracing is also used to prevent movement of cargo. Bracing goes from the upper part of the cargo to the floor and/or the walls of the cargo compartment. On flatbed trailers or trailers without sides, cargo must be secured to keep it from shifting and falling off. In closed vans, tie-downs can prevent cargo shifting that may affect the handling of the vehicle. Tie-downs must be of the proper type and proper strength. The combined strength of all the cargo tie-downs must be strong enough to lift 1 1/2 times the weight of the cargo tied down. Proper tie-down equipment must be used, including ropes, straps, chains, and tensioning devices such as winches, ratchets, and clinching components. Tie-downs must be attached to the vehicle correctly by hook, rails, bolt, or rings. Cargo should have at least 1 tie-down for each 10 feet of cargo. Make sure you have enough tie-downs to meet this need. No matter how small the cargo is, it should have at least 2 tie-downs to hold it. For heavy pieces of metal, there are special securing requirements. If you are to carry heavy pieces of metal, find out the securing requirements before your trip. Front-end header boards, commonly called headache racks, protect you from your cargo in case of a collision. This front-end structure should be strong enough to block the forward movement of any cargo you carry. There are 2 basic reasons for covering cargo: to protect people from spilled cargo and to protect the cargo from weather. The spill protection is a safety requirement in many states. Once again, be familiar with the laws of the states you drive in. You should look at your cargo covers in the mirrors from time to time as you drive. A flapping cover can tear loose, uncovering the cargo and possibly blocking your view or someone else's. You cannot inspect seal loads, but you should check that you don't exceed gross weight and axle weight limits. Containerized loads generally are used when freight is carried part of the way by rail or ship. Delivery by truck occurs at the beginning and/or end of the trip. Some containers have their own tie-down devices or locks that attach directly to a special frame. Others have to be loaded onto flatbed trailers. They are secured with tie-downs just like any other large cargo.
What is the minimum number of tie-downs for any flatbed load? What is the minimum number of tie-downs for a 20-foot load? Name the two basic reasons for covering cargo on an open bed. What must you check before transporting a sealed load? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
Liquids in bulk are transported in tanks, mounted on trucks, semi-trailers, or full trailers. Hauling liquids in tanks requires special skills because of high center of gravity. Remember that? And liquid movement. High center of gravity means that the load is carried high up off the road. This makes the vehicle top-heavy and easy to roll over. Tests have shown that trucks carrying liquids in bulk can turn over at the speeds posted for ramps. Take highway curves or on-ramp, off-ramp curves well below the posted speeds. Liquid surge results from movement of the liquid in partially filled tanks. This movement can have bad effects on vehicle handling. For example, when coming to a stop, the liquid will surge back and forth. When the surge, or wave, hits the end of the tank, it tends to actually push the truck in the direction the wave is moving. If the truck is on a slippery surface, such as ice, the wave can shove the truck into an intersection. If you drive a liquid tanker, you must become very familiar with the handling of the vehicle. Some liquid tanks are divided into smaller tanks by bulkheads. When loading and unloading the smaller tanks, the driver must pay special attention to weight distribution and not put too much weight on the front or rear of the vehicle. Baffled liquid tanks have bulkheads in them with holes that let the liquid flow through. The baffles help to control the backward and forward liquid surge. However, side-to-side surge can still occur, which can cause a rollover. Unbaffled liquid tankers, sometimes called smoothbore tankers, have nothing inside to slow down the flowing of the liquid. No bulkheads, no baffles. Therefore, forward and back surge is very strong. Smoothbore tanks are usually those that transport food products like milk. Be very careful in driving smoothbore tanks, especially when starting and stopping. Never load a liquid tank totally full. Liquids expand as they warm, and you must leave room for the expanding liquid. This is called outage. Since different liquids expand by different amounts, you must know the outage requirements when hauling liquids in bulk. A full tank of dense liquid, such as some acids, may exceed legal weight limits. For that reason, you may only fill tanks with heavy liquids partially full. Remember, when filling liquid bulk tanks, how much you load depends on the amount the liquid will expand in transit, the weight of the liquid, and the legal weight limits.
How is a bulkhead different from a baffle? Should a tanker with liquid take freeway on-ramps, off-ramps at the posted speed limit? Are smooth-bore tankers different to drive than those with baffles? What three things determine how much liquid you can load? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
This completes Part 3 of the video series. The Commercial Driver License Video Series is an internal production of the Training Division, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and Commonwealth Media Services, Pennsylvania Department of General Services. The producers wish to acknowledge the valuable assistance given to this series by Consolidated Freightways, York, Pennsylvania, Capital Products, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Rohr Bus Lines, Duncannon, Pennsylvania, and the Eastern Pennsylvania Training Facility, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. This is part 4 of the Commercial Operator video series, Transporting Passengers. This part deals primarily with bus drivers. Bus drivers must have a commercial driver's license if they drive a vehicle designed to seat more than 15 persons, including the driver. You are not considered a bus driver if you only carry family members for non-business purposes. Bus drivers must have a passenger endorsement on their commercial driver license. You will have to pass a test on Section 2 and 4 of the driver's manual. Those sections, 2 and 4, are parts 2 and 4 of this video series. Before driving your bus, make sure it is safe. During the pre-trip inspection, check for any problems reported by other drivers. If there were problems, they must have been fixed before you sign the report. Start your pre-inspection by checking the service brakes, including air hose couplings if your bus has a trailer or semi-trailer, parking brake, steering mechanism, horn, windshield wiper or wipers, rear vision mirror or mirrors, lights and reflectors, tires. Front wheels must not have regrooved or recapped tires, wheels and rims. Close any open emergency exits. Close any open access panels, baggage, restroom service, engine. People sometimes damage unattended buses. Check the interior before driving. Aisles and stairwells must be clear. Check each handhold and railing. The floor covering for tears or rips that could cause an accident. Signaling devices, including the restroom emergency buzzer if the bus has a restroom. Emergency exit handles. All seats must be securely fastened to the bus. Never drive with an open emergency exit door or window. The emergency exit sign on an emergency door must be clearly visible. If there is a red emergency door light, it must work. Turn it on at night or any other time you use your outside lights. You may lock some emergency roof hatches in an open position for fresh air. Do not leave them opened regularly. Remember, the bus has a higher clearance while driving with them open. Make sure your bus has the fire extinguisher and emergency reflectors required by law. The bus must also have spare electrical fuses unless equipped with circuit breakers. The driver's seat should have a seat belt. Always use it. Do not allow riders to leave carry-on baggage in a doorway or aisle. There should be nothing in the aisle that might trip others. Secure all baggage and freight to avoid damage, and allow the driver to move freely and easily. Allow riders to exit by any window or door in an emergency. Protect riders from injury if carry-ons fall or shift. Watch for cargo or baggage containing hazardous materials. Most hazardous materials cannot be carried on a bus. The Federal Hazardous Materials Table shows which materials are hazardous. They can be a risk to health, safety, and property during transportation. The rules require shippers to mark containers of hazardous material with the material's name, ID number, and hazard label. There are 22 different 4-inch diamond-shaped hazard labels. These are examples. Further information on hazardous materials can be found in Part 7 of this video series. Remember to watch for the diamond-shaped labels. Do not transport any hazardous materials unless you are sure the rules allow it. Rules like you can carry small arms ammunition labeled ORM-D, emergency hospital supplies and drugs. Buses must never carry Class A poison, liquid Class B poison, more than 100 pounds of solid Class B poisons, tear gas, irritating material, explosives in the space occupied by people except small arms ammunition, and labeled radioactive material in a space occupied by people. At no time will buses carry more than 500 pounds total of the allowed hazardous materials and no more than 100 pounds of any one class. Riders sometimes board a bus with an unlabeled hazardous material. They may not know it is unsafe. Do not allow riders to carry on common hazards such as batteries or gasoline. Common carriers, both intercity and urban mass transit, may have riders who have never traveled by bus before. They may be uneasy about the trip. Giving information will help. Drivers for intercity buses should announce the destination before leaving the terminal. This will reassure riders and give those who have made a mistake time to get off. If the stops are different from normal, like a new route or special express service, tell the riders. This will help put them at ease. Always explain an unscheduled delay or stop. Before starting, remind riders to keep arms, heads, and legs inside the bus, not out the window. If your bus has a restroom, mention the use of its door lock and light. Riders may never stand forward of the rear of the driver's seat. Buses designed to allow standing must have a 2-inch line on the floor or some other means to show riders where they cannot stand. This is called the standee line. All standing riders must stand behind it. When arriving at the destination or intermediate stops, announce location, reason for stopping, next departure time, and bus number. Remind riders to take carry-ons with them if they get off the bus. If the aisle is on a lower level than the seats, remind riders of the step-down. It is best to tell them before coming to a complete stop. Charter bus drivers should not allow riders on the bus until departure time. This will help prevent theft or vandalism of the bus.
Name some things to check in the interior of a bus during pre-trip inspection. What are some hazardous materials you can transport by bus? What are some hazardous materials you cannot transport by bus? What is a standee line? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
Mention rules about smoking, drinking, or use of the radio and tape players at the start of the trip. While driving, scan the interior of the bus as well as the road ahead, to the sides and to the rear. You may have to remind riders about the rules. Riders can stumble when getting on or off and when bus starts or stops. Caution riders to watch their step when leaving the bus. Wait for them to sit down or brace themselves before starting. Starting and stopping should be as smooth as possible to avoid injury. Occasionally, you may have a drunk or disruptive rider. You must ensure this rider's safety as well as the other passengers.
I got a problem. I don't want to
Don't discharge such riders where it would be unsafe for them. It may be safer at the next scheduled stop or a well-lighted area where there are other people. Many carriers have guidelines for handling disruptive riders. Bus crashes often happen at intersections. Use caution, even if a signal or stop sign controls other traffic. School and mass transit buses sometimes scrape off mirrors or hit passing vehicles when pulling out from a bus stop. Remember the clearance your bus needs and watch for poles and tree limbs at stops. Know the size of the gap your bus needs to accelerate and merge with traffic. Wait until the gap is open before leaving the stop. Never assume other drivers will brake to give you room to pull out. Crashes on curbs kill people and destroy buses. They result from excessive speed, often when rain or snow has made the road slippery. Every banked curve has a safe design speed. Because of the banking, the forces at that speed actually push your bus downward into the roadway, rather than sideways off the curve. The design speed is often less than the posted speed for the curve. The posted speed is safe for cars, but may be too high for many buses. Even with good traction, the bus may roll over. With poor traction, it might slide off the curb. Reduce speed for curves. If your bus leans towards the outside on a banked curve, you are driving too fast. Stop at railroad crossings. Stop between 15 and 50 feet before the crossing. Look and listen in both directions for trains. You should open your forward door if it improves your ability to see or hear an approaching train. Before crossing after a train has passed, make sure there isn't another train coming in the other direction on the other tracks. If your bus has a manual transmission, don't change gears while crossing the tracks. The bus may stall. You do not have to stop, but you must slow down and carefully check for other vehicles at streetcar crossings, at railroad tracks used only for industrial switching, where a policeman or flagman is directing traffic. You must stop if signaled to do so. If a traffic signal shows green and at crossings marked exempt crossings. Stop at drawbridges that do not have a signal light or traffic control attendant. Stop at least 50 feet before the draw of the bridge. Make sure the draw is completely closed before crossing. You do not need to stop, but must slow down and make sure it is safe when there is a traffic light showing green. The bridge has an attendant or traffic officer that controls traffic whenever the bridge opens. Inspect your bus at the end of each shift. If you work for an interstate carrier, you must complete a written inspection report for each bus driven. The report must identify each bus and list any defect that would affect safety or result in a breakdown. If there are no defects, the report should say so. Riders sometimes damage safety-related parts, such as handholds, seats, emergency exits, and windows. If you report this damage at the end of a shift, mechanics can make repairs before the bus goes out again. Mass transit drivers should also make sure passenger signaling devices and brake door interlocks work properly. Avoid fueling your bus with riders on board or in a closed building. While driving, do not talk with riders or engage in any other distracting activity. Do not tow or push a disabled bus with riders aboard either vehicle, unless getting off would be unsafe. If that is the case, only tow or push the bus to the nearest safe spot to discharge passengers. Follow your employer's guidelines on towing or pushing disabled buses. Urban mass transit coaches may have a brake and accelerator interlock system. The interlock applies the brakes and holds the throttle in the idle position when the rear door is open. The interlock releases when you close the rear door. Do not use this safety feature in place of the parking brake when safety requires use of the parking brake.
Does it matter where you make a disruptive passenger get off a bus? How far from a railroad crossing should you stop? When must you stop before crossing a drawbridge? Describe from memory the prohibited practices mentioned. The rear door of a transit bus has to be open to put on the parking brake. True or false? If you cannot answer these questions, or you are uncomfortable with your answers, review this video and the pertinent sections of the manual.
This completes Part 4 of the video series. The Commercial Driver License Video Series is an internal production of the Training Division, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and Commonwealth Media Services, Pennsylvania Department of General Services. The producers wish to acknowledge the valuable assistance given to this series by Consolidated Freightways, York, Pennsylvania, Capital Products, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Rohr Bus Lines, Duncannon, Pennsylvania, and the Eastern Pennsylvania Training Facility, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania.